Welcome to Whispered Women's Stories. Today's tale starts with a woman who walked through betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, only to rise higher than anyone expected. When her husband gambled with her trust and her money, Ella didn't crumble. She fought back. What follows isn't just revenge, it's transformation. Stay with me, because the moment she tells him, "We're strangers now," will give you chills.
01. In the most luxurious Cantonese-style restaurant in Seabreeze City, Cloud Peak House, inside the VIP room V8, a massive crystal chandelier scattered shimmering lights across a table packed with extravagant dishes. The Australian lobster was still steaming. The abalone, large, fist-sized ones, were neatly arranged on fine china. 2 bottles of top-shelf Mau Tai were already opened, their aroma drifting through the room. Tonight was Doris Foster's 60th birthday. According to her hometown's traditions, turning 60 is a major milestone and must be celebrated properly. For the sake of face, Ella Bennett had booked the highest-tier private room. The set menu alone cost $6,280. "Ayo, Doris, your life is really something," second aunt said, gnawing on a king crab leg while clicking her tongue in envy. "I've only seen Cloud Peak House on TV. I heard you need a membership card just to get in. This whole table must be worth half a year of my husband's salary." Doris was dressed in a dark red traditional jacket, her hair permed into soft curls. Around her neck hung a heavy gold necklace, Ella's birthday gift from last week, costing $1,800. Doris was glowing with pride, squinting as she smiled, though she held onto her freshly cracked lobster claw like it was treasure. "Oh please, this is nothing," Doris waved proudly. "My son insisted on doing it big. He said a 60th birthday can't look shabby. I told him I'd be fine with something simple, but Liam wouldn't listen. Said I deserved a grand celebration." Sitting next to her was Liam Foster, wearing a tailored Armani suit. Ella had brought it back for him from a business trip to Italy. On his slightly rounded frame, it still managed to look decent enough. Hearing his mother's praise, Liam beamed, raised his glass, and stood up to address the relatives. "Second aunt, uncle, everyone, eat and drink to your heart's content. Tonight's all about making mom happy. Money's not a problem. As long as everyone enjoys themselves, this bill is totally worth it." "Good job, Liam. See, that's the benefit of having a son. He's like your savings account." Compliments echoed across the room. Liam's smile grew even brighter, as if this $6,000 plus feast really came out of his own paycheck, despite the fact he only earned $6,000 a month. In the corner, Ella sat quietly. She wore a charcoal gray business suit, her long hair tied neatly back, giving her a cool, professional look. At the moment, she was wearing disposable gloves, patiently peeling a mantis shrimp, the one Doris had casually pointed at earlier, saying she wanted it. Once she finished, she placed the peeled shrimp meat into Doris's bowl, removed the gloves, and took a sip of her tea. It had gone lukewarm, just like how she felt inside. Since the moment they walked in, not a single person had asked who paid for this dinner, nor had anyone asked whether Ella was exhausted. In their eyes, Liam's success was the family's pride. And Ella? She was just the backdrop that made him look good. Just then, the private room door opened. Liam's younger sister, Chloe Foster, walked in arm with a young man with bleached blonde hair. She was a full 30 minutes late, yet didn't look the slightest bit apologetic. "Mom, happy birthday." Chloe placed a beautifully wrapped gift box on the table, a luxury brand perfume worth maybe $100. Traffic was awful. Tyler and I had to take a huge detour. "Glad you're here." Sit. Doris's face lit up like sunshine, waving for the staff to add chairs. "Chloe, you must be starving. Come eat this lobster. I saved it just for you." Chloe plopped down right next to Ella without even greeting her, her eyes scanning the entire table. "Wow, this place is nice, bro." She turned to Liam with a sugary voice. "Oh right, I found this BMW Mini I really like. Perfect for a new driver like me. The down payment isn't much, just $8,000. You know Tyler hasn't passed his probation yet, and my paycheck is tiny." As she spoke, her eyeliner-winged eyes intentionally drifted toward Ella. The whole table's attention shifted instantly. Liam's expression stiffened. $8,000 was a massive number for him. Even though he kept his own debit card, his monthly expenses, food, drinks, entertaining clients, plus secretly helping out his family, left him broke every month. Under the table, he nudged Ella's heel with his leather shoe. The meaning was obvious. Sweetheart, please help me out. Just agree. Ella felt the nudge. If this had been a few years ago, just for the sake of keeping peace, just to protect Liam's pride, she might have smiled and said, let's talk later, and then quietly paid the money herself. After all, as a regional director in a multinational corporation earning a six-figure salary, $8,000 wasn't something she couldn't afford. But in the past 5 years, she had already paid too much. She bought their home outright. She covered her father-in-law's heart bypass surgery last year. When Chloe couldn't find a job after graduating, Ella called in favors to get her hired at a partner company. And what did she get in return? Ella put down her teacup, pretending she didn't feel Liam's hint at all. She didn't even lift her eyelids as she said calmly, like commenting on the weather. Chloe wanting a car is great, but our company is going through its annual audit right now. All executive accounts are in a temporary freeze, and we're also cooperating with the tax review. So I really don't have any spare cash at the moment. The air froze for half a second. Chloe's face dropped immediately. Oh please, what freeze? You're such a big executive. Whatever slips through your fingers is more than enough for me. Just say you don't want to help. Why make up excuses? Liam's face twitched as he forced a laugh. Chloe, stop it. Your sister-in-law really is busy lately. Busy with what? Chloe snapped, tossing her chopsticks down. Busy making money, right? And what's the point of making all that money if you won't even help your own sister? Honestly, I have no idea who she's saving it for. 02. The moment Chloe slammed her chopsticks down, it was like a signal, an instant spark that lit the fuse inside Doris. Doris had been basking in the feeling of being the center of attention, but the second she saw her precious daughter looking wronged, her face darkened immediately. She grabbed her glass of white liquor, took a huge burning gulp, and with the boost of alcohol, smacked her chopsticks hard onto the table. The sharp crack silenced the entire private room. Doris didn't lash out at Ella directly. Instead, she turned towards second aunt beside her and practically shouted, "You know what you said earlier about having sons being a blessing? You were absolutely right. These days, you can only count on your own blood." Second aunt gave an awkward smile, not daring to respond. But Doris wasn't done. Her voice shot up an octave, though her eyes were locked fiercely on Ella, who was quietly sipping tea. Women who study too much get too many little thoughts in their heads. What's the point of making all that money? It's all their ability, right? They keep it stuffed tight in their own pockets, guarding it like we're thieves coming after the Foster family. Liam's face changed instantly. Mom, you're drunk. I'm not drunk. Doris slapped away Liam's hand as he tried to support her, then pointed at Chloe. See this? This is my own flesh and blood. Chloe gets upset, and I feel it in my heart. And those people with a different last name? They just sit there watching. Let me tell you all, no matter how rich a daughter-in-law is, she's still an outsider. You still have to be careful. In the end, only your own son and daughter truly care about you. The word outsider dropped into the middle of the room like a hammer. The entire room fell into dead silence. Relatives stared at one another, no one daring to speak. A server holding a fruit platter stood frozen by the door, not knowing whether to go in or leave. Ella's fingers brushed lightly along the rim of her teacup. So this was the mother-in-law she had treated with genuine sincerity for 5 years. This was the family she married into, despite their financial struggles, despite not receiving a bridal gift, despite everything. She looked at Liam. Right now, as her partner, he should stand up for her, even just to say one fair sentence. But Liam didn't. He glanced at his furious mother, then at his expressionless wife, and chose the weakest path, damage control. With a hint of blame in his eyes, he leaned toward Ella and lowered his voice. Sweetheart, Mom's a little tipsy because she's happy. She didn't mean what she said. You're the younger one here. Don't take it personally. And this is getting out of hand. Why don't you go handle the bill at the front? Don't let the relatives make fun of us. Whatever we need to discuss, we'll talk at home. We'll talk at home. Ella had heard those 4 words for 5 years. Every time she was wronged, it was, we'll talk at home, and then it was swept under the rug. But today, she was done. Looking at this family, so united, so self-righteous, Ella's mind flashed through scene after scene. Coming home from overtime at midnight, only to cook them late-night snacks. Liam using her secondary credit card to act generous at clubs. Doris telling the neighbors that her daughter-in-law was too strong-willed. Suddenly, Ella found it all absurd. So she actually laughed. It was a graceful, icy laugh, and whatever warmth had remained in her eyes disappeared completely. "Excuse me, sir, ma'am." The server finally approached, sensing something was wrong. "Would you like to add more dishes? If not, here is the total, $6,280. The server handed the black check folder to Ella because she had ordered the dishes earlier, and everyone naturally assumed she'd be paying. Ella reached out and took the bill. Everyone let out a relieved breath, assuming the storm was over. Doris even hummed triumphantly, picking her chopsticks back up, certain she had won. But the next second, Ella did not pull out her card. She stood up and in full view of all the relatives, she placed the black bill folder gently, but firmly, right in front of Liam. "Since Mom just said I'm an outsider," Ella said calmly, her voice not loud, but crystal clear in the silent room, "then this birthday dinner for the insiders should naturally be paid for by the family. As an outsider, I won't overstep." 03. Her words were like a ladle of cold water thrown into boiling oil. The whole room exploded instantly. What's that supposed to mean? You're not paying? A married couple still talks about yours and mine? Seriously? Relatives began whispering among themselves, eyes darting between Ella and Liam. The piece of braised pork Doris had just picked up slipped from her chopsticks and hit the table with a splat. Her face turned a furious shade of blue. "Ella, what do you think you're doing? Rebelling in front of all these elders?" Liam was caught completely in the middle, his face darkening into a liver-purple color. He never imagined the always considerate, always face-saving Ella would embarrass him in a situation like this. But he couldn't back down now. Not with relatives around and not with his childhood buddy sitting right there. If he couldn't even pay for his own mother's birthday dinner, he'd never hold his head up again in this city. "Fine. You don't want to pay? I'll pay." Clenching his teeth, Liam pulled out his wallet because his pride as a man was on the line. There were only a few $100s in cash inside, but he had one card, the household secondary card Ella gave him, with a $50,000 limit. All their living expenses plus his personal indulgences usually went on that card. He whipped out the black card and shoved it toward the server, pretending to sound tough. "Charge it to me. It's just a few $1,000s. You think I can't afford one meal without you? I don't believe I can't even treat my own mother." The server took the card and started processing it on the handheld POS machine. Everyone stared at the tiny screen. "Bay." A long tone. Then came the cold robotic voice. "Transaction failed. Insufficient funds or card restricted." The sound echoed through the private room like a slap, landing square on Liam's face. Liam froze. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead. "No way! Try again." "Maybe the machine's broken." The server, polite but embarrassed, tried again. Beep. Transaction failed. This time, even the relatives' expression shifted, from watching a drama to outright disdain and amusement. "What happened, Liam?" "No money on the card," second aunt muttered. Panic surged through Liam. He whipped around and glared at Ella. "You froze the card, didn't you?" "Ella, how can you be so vicious? You're doing this on purpose to humiliate me in front of everyone, aren't you?" Doris realized it too. She slammed the table. "Oh, so this was your plan all along? You just wanted to embarrass the Foster family." Your heart is pitch black. But Ella remained utterly calm. She took out her phone, unlocked it slowly, tapped open a bank notification, and turned the screen toward Liam. "The card isn't frozen, and the limit hasn't changed," she said in a chillingly steady voice. "However, even though it's a secondary card, the repayment account is mine. Last Friday, there was a $200,000 transfer on that card. The recipient was an account called Harbor City Luxury Motors. Combined with your previous spending, the $50,000 limit has been maxed out. So, of course, the card declined. Ella paused, then leveled a razor-sharp look at Liam. As for where that $200,000 went, why don't we check it right here in front of everyone? Liam's pupils constricted. That $200,000, he had secretly transferred it to his ex-girlfriend's brother, who claimed he needed it to turn over some inventory in his used car business. In truth, it was basically a loan he'd never see again. Check it? He wouldn't dare. If they checked, not only would he still be unable to pay, but all his messy debts outside would be exposed on the spot. No need. His bravado collapsed immediately, and he looked away. Maybe it was stolen or something. I'll ask the bank later. And the bill? The server asked at the perfect moment. Liam was drenched in sweat, completely lost. He looked at Chloe, who immediately clutched her purse and turned her head away. He looked at Doris, who clutched her chest like she was about to faint on the spot. In the end, Liam had no choice but to pull out his phone and, in front of everyone, start calling his buddies to borrow money. Hey, Jerry, you got cash. Lend me $20,000. What? You lost yours gambling? Kevin, bro, I need to borrow some. Hello? While Liam scrambled around like a clown, getting rejected one after another, Ella picked up her handbag and smoothed her clothes. Everyone, enjoy your meal. I still have a video meeting for work, so I'll head out first. With that, she walked out of the private room without looking back, leaving the mess behind for this so-called family to deal with. Behind her came Doris's furious shriek, followed by the heavy thud of something hitting the ground. This time, she had actually passed out from rage. 04. That night, Ella didn't go back to the place everyone insisted on calling home. She checked into a hotel instead. The next evening, she returned to Riverside Garden. It was a luxury residential complex in the city, an upscale 200-square-meter apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a full river view. Ella had bought it outright before marriage. The property deed had only her name on it. The moment she stepped through the door, the whole house felt suffocating with tension. Doris was sprawled on the sofa, groaning dramatically with a damp towel on her forehead. Chloe sat beside her peeling mandarins, her expression full of indignation. Liam was slumped in a single-seat armchair, surrounded by cigarette butts scattered across the floor. When he saw Ella walk in, Liam abruptly crushed out his cigarette and jumped to his feet. So you do know how to come home. Liam's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. You sent Mom to the hospital yesterday and offended every single relative we have. Are you happy now? Exactly. Chloe spat out a mandarin seed. Sister-in-law, you were way too much. It was just a dinner bill. Did you really need to make such a scene? Now look, every relative is mocking our family in the group chat saying my brother married a she-devil. Doris pushed herself up from the sofa and pointed at Ella, wailing, Such misfortune for our family. I told you from the start this woman had a bad face and would curse her husband, but you wouldn't listen. Now look, you're letting her torment us to death. Facing attacks from all three sides, Ella calmly changed into her indoor slippers, placed her bag on the entryway shelf, and walked into the center of the living room. Are you finished? She asked, her tone cool. No, we're not, Liam roared. Ella, you must apologize to Mom. Then go to the family group chat and send everyone red envelope money. Explain that your card malfunctioned yesterday, that I never refused to pay. And another thing, reimburse the credit limit on that supplementary card. I need that money. Ella stared at the man in front of her, suddenly feeling an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. 5 years ago, where had the Liam gone? The one who saved her a seat in the university library, who brought her porridge when she was sick. Or maybe that Liam never existed at all. Maybe this one, the one standing here now, was the real face beneath the mask. Memories washed over her. When they got married, the foster family claimed they were too poor to afford a dowry. Ella sympathized, didn't ask for anything, even paid for their wedding photos herself. Liam said he was a hidden gem and he'd repay her double in the future. After the wedding, Liam said he was managing the finances, so he never handed over his salary card. Ella didn't mind. She covered all their living expenses without complaint. And the result? Liam's so-called financial management was nothing more than transferring all his money to Doris for safekeeping, or secretly buying luxury bags and plastic surgery for Chloe. Ella's generosity bought her not gratitude, but endless, escalating demands. Apologize? Ella let out a cold laugh. Liam, have you forgotten whose name is on this house? Or who's been paying every bill in this family? Why are you being so petty between husband and wife? What's yours is mine, Liam declared as if it were common sense. The law says all income after marriage is marital property. Marital property? Ella's eyes sharpened. Since you brought up the law, then let's discuss it properly. She walked over to the coffee table, pulled a document from her bag, and tossed it onto the surface. It was a photocopy she had accidentally found in Liam's briefcase yesterday, a mortgage loan application. The collateral listed was this very Riverside Garden apartment. And under loan purpose it said, down payment for Chloe's wedding apartment. The signature line showed Ella's name, clumsily forged in her handwriting. That word you used yesterday, outsider, actually reminded me of something, Ella said, pointing at the document, her voice icy enough to cut. You call me an outsider, yet you plan to use the outsider's house as collateral to buy your precious little sister a new home? Liam, is this what you think a so-called insider is supposed to do? Liam's face drained of color the instant he saw the document. He froze where he stood. Doris and Chloe were stunned too, their eyes darting away, afraid to meet Ella's gaze. I was just checking what the loan amount would be, Liam stammered. I wasn't actually going to submit it. Besides, Chloe's marriage is a big deal. As her sister-in-law, I'm supposed to sell my blood to buy her a house? Ella cut him off. This place is my premarital asset. And you forged my signature to mortgage it? Liam, are you legally illiterate, or do you just think I am stupid? That one word, outsider, was just the final straw. What truly broke Ella's heart was the years of draining, exploiting, and calculation leading up to it. 05. It was late at night when the shouting finally died down. Liam thought this was just another one of their more serious marital fights, nothing a little pestering and groveling couldn't fix. As long as he clung to her shamelessly, Ella would soften eventually. After all, in the past 5 years, Ella had never once seriously mentioned divorce. He was already planning his next move, buy her a bouquet tomorrow, kneel on a washboard, and put on a pitiful act. But he underestimated Ella. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows into the living room. Liam woke up to the sound of urgent knocking. He stumbled out of the bedroom, still half asleep, only to find Ella already fully dressed, wearing a sharp black business suit, arms folded as she stood coldly in the center of the room. And behind her stood 3 unfamiliar men. One was the captain of a moving company, wearing a uniform. The other 2 were in suits, carrying briefcases with attorney badges pinned to their lapels. One of them Liam recognized, Derek, the chief legal officer from Ella's company, notorious in the industry as the Grim Reaper. Ella, what are you doing? Liam's heart lurched, a terrible sense of dread flooding his chest. Ella didn't answer. She simply nodded at Derek. Derek adjusted his glasses, stepped forward, pulled out a thick stack of documents from his briefcase, and slapped them onto the coffee table. Good morning, Liam. I'm Ella's legal representative, as well as the corporate counsel, Derek said, his voice steady and emotionless. This is the divorce agreement drafted by Ella. She requests that you leave the marriage with nothing. Divorce? I'm not divorcing! Liam barked. It was just an argument. How can you take it this far? No rush. That's just the appetizer. Derek's lips curled into a cold smirk as he pulled out 2 more documents. This one is the criminal complaint receipt for embezzlement. And this one is the debt recovery notice. In that moment, the air froze. Liam's legs buckled and he collapsed to the floor. Doris and Chloe rushed out after hearing the commotion and froze in terror when they saw the scene. What embezzlement? Doris stammered. Ella finally spoke. She looked down at Liam from above, her gaze sharp as a blade. Liam, for the past 3 years you've held a fake position as procurement manager in my family's company, earning $10,000 a month for doing nothing. I tolerated that. But what I will not tolerate is you abusing that position padding procurement prices, making double contracts, and embezzling a total of 800,000 yuan. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word drove into Liam like a nail. That 800,000, you funneled it to your mother for investments, bought luxury goods for your sister, and even lent some to your useless drinking buddies. Did you think you covered your tracks well? Did you forget what I do for a living? We conducted an overnight audit. Every transaction is crystal clear. Liam was trembling uncontrollably, cold sweat soaking through his pajamas. For large-scale embezzlement, the minimum sentence starts at 5 years. Ella crouched down so she was eye level with Liam's fear-stricken face. You have 2 choices. 1, prison. 2, within 3 days, repay every cent of the 800,000 plus interest, sign the divorce papers, and get out. I'll issue a letter of leniency so you won't be criminally charged. Then she turned her gaze to the pale, trembling Doris. A faint, mocking smile tugged at Ella's lips. Mom, you said something very wise at dinner that day. You said we should always guard against outsiders. So I checked the accounts. Didn't you say your son was the most reliable person in the world? Well, now it's your turn to sell your old house to save your reliable son. Walty Kopi. The living room of Riverside Garden turned into a full-on spectacle, something you could only describe as a dogs-eat-dog show. Faced with the threat of prison, the so-called loving mother and dutiful son, the loyal brother and affectionate sister, all of it collapsed instantly. Mom, help me. Liam clung to Doris's leg, sobbing hysterically. If you don't help me pay back the 800,000, I'll really end up sewing uniforms in prison. I don't want to go to jail. Doris's face was bloodless, her lips trembling. Aside from what Chloe had spent, the remaining money was stashed in her fixed-term savings, her coffin fund, the thing she valued most in life. Son, that money. Mom put it in a locked-term account. I can't take it out. Doris glanced away guiltily and even nudged Liam aside. Or maybe you should beg Ella? You two were married. She can't be that heartless. Begging is useless. The lawyers are already here. Liam howled. Mom, there's still the old house. It's not worth much, but together with your savings, it should be enough. The moment he mentioned selling the old house, Doris exploded. That house is your father's legacy. We can't sell it. Where will I live if it's gone? At that moment, Chloe, who had been silent, suddenly screamed, because the lawyer had mentioned that a large portion of the 800,000 had gone toward Chloe's luxury shopping and cosmetic procedures. If it couldn't be recovered, she might also face liability as a beneficiary. Even her car and designer bags could be seized. I'm not paying. Why should I? Chloe shrieked. He gave me that money willingly. It's his fault for being useless and for not being able to handle his own wife. She jabbed a finger at Liam's face. Bro, you're pathetic. If you'd added your name to the property deed earlier, even if you divorced, we could have taken half. Would we be this helpless now? If you end up in prison, fine, but don't drag me down. I'm getting married next month. Liam stared at his sister, the one he had spoiled for more than 20 years, in disbelief. Chloe, how can you say that? I always treated you so well. And so what? If you don't give me money, what good are you? Chloe rolled her eyes. You're basically a future convict who still acknowledges you as their brother? Watching this absurd meltdown, Ella felt nothing but cold irony. So this was the reliable family Doris boasted about. In the face of money and legal consequences, their blood is thicker than water bond was as fragile as tissue paper. Enough. Ella's voice sliced through their screaming. You have 10 minutes to decide. If you don't sign the repayment agreement and divorce agreement within 10 minutes, the lawyers will proceed. She glanced at the time and started a countdown. And one more thing, the movers are already here. Aside from your personal belongings, none of the furniture or appliances in this house leaves with you. In 10 minutes, the locks get changed. 7. Ella's move was swift and overwhelming. She didn't give the Foster family a single breath of room. 10 minutes later, under the crushing fear of going to prison, Liam's trembling hand finally signed both the divorce agreement and the repayment commitment. Then came the liquidation. Under Derek's supervision, the movers packed the Fosters' clothes and miscellaneous items into a few woven bags and dumped them unceremoniously in the hallway outside. "That's my limited edition LV." Chloe tried to snatch a bag back. Derek stepped in front of her, his voice icy. "Chloe, according to the audit records, that bag was purchased using embezzled funds. It's considered evidence and will be temporarily seized. If you don't want to be listed as an accomplice, I strongly suggest you let go." Chloe jerked her hand back as if burned, tears streaming down her face. Downstairs, Liam's prized Audi A6 was also driven away by the company's admin staff. The car had always been registered under the company's name. Ella used to let him drive it for show. Now, reclaiming it was only fair. The front door slammed shut. The smart lock chimed crisply. Administrator fingerprint reset. Thrown out into the hallway of a luxury apartment complex, the Foster trio stood beside their bags like three homeless refugees. The following days were pure hell for Liam. Ella didn't send him to prison, but she did circulate an official notice in the industry detailing Liam's major financial misconduct and termination. With a stain like that, getting a decent job was nearly impossible. To repay the $800,000, Doris was forced to sell the old family house at a low price and hand over her secret stash of savings. She cried so hard she fainted more than once. Chloe didn't fare much better. When her fiancé's family heard Liam was involved in embezzlement and the Fosters were drowning in debt, the marriage proposal fell apart instantly. Her blonde playboy boyfriend blocked her that very night, faster than a rabbit running for its life. Half a month later, on a rainy night, Ella was leaving the office after working late when she spotted a miserable figure standing in the rain. It was Liam. His face was unshaven, his clothes soaked through, nothing like the suited, polished man he once pretended to be. The moment he saw her, he rushed forward to grab her hand, only to be held back firmly by security. "Aya, baby, I know I was wrong." Liam sobbed, rain and tears mixing down his face. "I was blinded by stupidity. I was a jerk. Please forgive me. Let's get remarried, okay? I'll listen to you from now on. I'll never listen to my mom again." Ella stood beneath her umbrella on the steps, looking quietly at the man she once shared a bed with. Once, she thought he was her safe harbor. Now she realized he was the storm she had been running from all along. She felt no anger, no sadness, only the calm relief that comes after freedom. She spoke softly to the head of security beside her. "I don't know him. Tell him we're strangers now." Then she turned and got into the car waiting by the curb. As the car pulled away, the splash of water from the tires left the kneeling man far behind. 08. 1 year later, at the annual Women's Entrepreneur of the Year Gala in Seaside City, the lights glittered like stars. Ella stood on the award stage in a deep navy evening gown, trophy in hand, her smile confident and graceful. That year, she led her team to secure projects worth hundreds of millions, taking her career to new heights. Thunderous applause filled the hall. Among the crowd, a charming gentleman watched her, their newest business partner, and a promising suitor. This time, Ella wasn't in a rush to fall in love. She'd learned to love herself first before loving anyone else. After the banquet, Ella sat in her car as it passed by the famous Yunding Pavilion restaurant. The place was still blazing with lights, luxury cars lined up outside. Across the street, on the curb, a middle-aged man in a yellow food delivery uniform crouched while eating a steamed bun. It was Liam. Unable to find a proper job and drowning in debts owed to relatives, he had no choice but to deliver food day and night. Wind and sun had aged him at least a decade. He looked up at the shining signboard of Yunding Pavilion, and the memory of that night replayed in his mind. If his mother hadn't yelled outsider that evening, if he had stepped up to defend his wife, if he hadn't greedily touched that company money, but life doesn't offer ifs. He slapped himself across the face, the crack of it lost in the noise of the city. Elsewhere in the city, in a tiny, shabby rental room, Doris and Chloe were cursing each other over a few dollars of electricity. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't insisted on buying that car, none of this would have happened." "My fault? If you hadn't called her an outsider, would she have checked the accounts?" Their endless screaming echoed through the cramped space. Back in Ella's car, the window slowly rose, shutting out the cold air outside. Ella looked ahead as the road light slid past. The road before her was wide and bright. She finally understood a woman's greatest security isn't her husband, nor her in-laws, but the money in her own pocket and the wisdom in her own mind. In this world, no one is born an outsider. Only those who take without giving, who never cherish others. They are the ones life eventually throws out.
Thank you for watching Whispered Women's Stories. Ella's journey reminds us of one simple truth. A woman's greatest power isn't a man, a marriage, or anyone's approval. It's her own courage, her own mind, and a life she builds with both. Some people lose you once, and that's forever. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next chapter.